and welcome to Vlogmas Day 21. I have Button back today as my special guest. You might remember that we read the guinea pig stories together, and today we have a guinea pig Oliver twist. It seemed right to do this for Vlogmas because this is one of those films that you watch at Christmas. I will leave my Vlogmas playlist linked up here, so if you have missed any of the Vlogmas videos so far, you can watch those up there. And yeah, let's get on with it. I know you're very excited to read, aren't you? Yeah, Guinea Pig Oliver twist today. So we have our cast of characters. So there's our various different characters playing all the different characters in the Dickens book. Yes. Very exciting. And we have our map of London as well, where all the locations take place. So we start out in the workhouse. Oliver Twist was born as an orphan of the workhouse and fell into his place at once. A parish child, the humble, half-starved drudge, to be offered and buffeted, cuffed and buffeted through the world, despised by all and pitied by none. We name our foundlings in alphabetical order, said Mr. Bumble, the parish beadle. This was a T. Twist. You see Mr. Bumble? Yes. Oliver's 8th birthday found him a pale, thin boy, believing that meat was made for a rebellious child. The workhouse had a policy of gradual starvation, issuing the children only 3 meals of thin gruel a day, with an onion twice a week and half a roll on Sundays. I know, can you imagine? No guinea pig nuggets, none at all. One evening, little Oliver, desperate with hunger and reckless with misery, rose from the table, basin and spoon in hand, and said, "Please, sir, I want some more." Can you imagine? I know what's going to happen. The next morning, a bill was hung from the workhouse gate, offering the reward of £5 to anybody who would take Oliver Twist off the hands of the parish. £5 and a healthy boy offered to any tradesman needing an apprentice. You're going to come back round and read the book? Yeah? Mr. Sowerberry, the undertaker, decided to take Oliver as his apprentice, but even he was surprised by the boy's appearance. "Dear me, he's very small," he said. "Why, he is rather small," replied Mr. Bumble, looking at Oliver as if it were his fault he wasn't bigger. "Well, come with me," said Mr. Sowerberry, leading the way to the funeral parlour. "You won't mind sleeping in the coffins, I suppose?" That's a little bit scary sounding, isn't it? Yeah, you turn around and you can see the book. There we go. There we go. Due to his natural expression of melancholy, Oliver was soon accompanying Mr. Sowerberry to all manner of funerals. However, young Mr. Noah Claypole, who minded the undertaker's shop, was jealous when he saw the new boy being promoted so quickly. He taunted Oliver in the hope of making him cry, and then, when all else failed, he got rather personal. "Your mother was a regular right-down bad 'un, workhouse," said Noah, "and it's a great deal better that she died when she did." Well, that's very personal, isn't it, Button? Very mean. A minute ago, Oliver had looked the quiet, mild, dejected creature that harsh treatment had made him, but his spirit was roused at last. The cruel insult to his mother had set his blood on fire. Crimson with fury, he started up, overthrew chair and table, seized Noah by the throat, shook him in the violence of his rage till his teeth chattered in his head, and collecting his whole force into the heavy blow, felled Noah to the ground. Can you imagine? "Help, help," blubbed Noah. "Oliver's gone mad. He'll murder me. He's turned vicious." I know, it's very exciting. Mr. Sowerby punished Oliver with a thorough drubbing and then ordered him up the stairs to his dismissal. Left alone in the gloomy workshop of the undertaker, Oliver wept and resolved to run away. With the first ray of light, he tied a few scraps of food in a handkerchief, unbarred the door, and set out for London. London, that great large place, nobody, not even Mr. Bumble, could find him there. I know he's going to London. It's very exciting. On the way, Oliver met the strangest looking boy that he had ever seen. "Hello, my Covey," said this young strange gentleman. "What's the row?" "I'm hungry and tired," Oliver replied. "I have walked a long way. I've been walking these 7 days. 7 days? Come, you want grub. You shall have it." Among his intimate friends, he was better known by the name Artful Dodger. I know, it's the Artful Dodger. I know. Very exciting. The Artful Dodger. Let's turn you around. There we go. The Artful Dodger led Oliver to a gloomy room in the dirtiest part of London, where Oliver encountered a very old man by the name of Fagin, whose villainous-looking face was obscured by a quantity of matted hair. Dressed in a greasy, tattered coat, Fagin was dividing his attention between a frying pan of sausages and a clothesline over which a great number of silk handkerchiefs were hanging. "We are very glad to see you, Oliver," said Fagin. Fagin craftily inducted young Oliver into the pickpocketing trade, and one morning sent him out to work with Dodger. The boys walked along to Clerkenwell Green, where they saw an old gentleman reading at a bookstall. "A prime plant," cried Dodger. Dodger plunged his hand into the old gentleman's pocket, withdrew a handkerchief, and then ran away at full speed. Horrified, Oliver took to his heels as the gentleman turned sharp around. Seeing Oliver scudding away at such rapid pace, the gentleman shouted, "Stop, thief!" I know. Should we see what's happening next? It's not good, is it? After a helter-skelter chase, Oliver was caught and sentenced to 3 months' hard labour, until the old gentleman, whose name was Mr. Brownlow, persuaded the magistrate that Oliver was innocent. Exhausted, Oliver fell heavily to the floor in a fainting fit. His face was deadly white, and the cold tremble convulsed his whole frame. I know, poor Oliver. Taking pity on the boy, Mr. Brownlow took him home to Pentonville. Weak, thin, and pallid, Oliver awoke at last and looked anxiously around. Mr. Brownlow tended Oliver with kindness and solicitude until his fever was quite past, and then, requiring some books to be returned, sent the young boy out on an errand. Dressed in a new suit and with a £5 note buttoned into his jacket pocket, Oliver left the house with a bundle of books. Accidentally turning down a street which was not on his way, he was claimed by Nancy and Bill Sykes, associates of Fagin. There's Nancy and Bill. Darkness had set in. It was a low neighbourhood. No help was near. Resistance was useless. Fagin kept Oliver locked up and alone for many days, until one morning the Dodger asked Oliver to apply himself to Japanizing his trotter cases, in plain English, cleaning his boots. As Oliver worked, the Dodger tried to persuade him to take up trade again. "Why don't you put yourself under Fagin, Oliver?" the Dodger said. "If you don't take the handkerchief, some other cove will." "You've been brought up bad," said the Dodger, surveying his boots with much satisfaction. "Fagin will make something of you, though." The Dodger was right. Fagin had a plan for Oliver. He gave the boy to Bill Sykes, who was in the housebreaking business, and required a boy just Oliver's size for a crack in the far-off village of Chertsey. When they reached the house, Oliver was shoved through a small lattice window and instructed to unbolt the street door. But then there was a flash, a loud noise and smoke, and he staggered back. "Damnation!" cried Sykes. "They've hit him!" Realizing the game was up, Sykes abandoned the wounded boy and made good his escape. And can you see Bullseye there? Can you see him? There's Bullseye as well. Like Bullseye. To the countryside. Very exciting. Fortunately, Oliver was rescued by the kindly Mr. Brownlow and taken to the countryside, where he grew stout and healthy and learned to read better and write. Morning after morning, Oliver scoured the country for flowers and brought home the fairest that blossomed. One day, Oliver went to a nearby village to deliver a letter. Crossing the inn yard, he accidentally stumbled into a tall man wrapped in a cloak whose name was Monks. Monks advanced towards Oliver, glaring at the boy with his large, dark eyes. Even though to Oliver he was a total stranger, he seemed to know the boy. "Curses on your head and black death on your heart, you imp! What are you doing here?" Don't know who this Monks is. Oh, back to London again. Back in the city, meanwhile, Nancy had a sudden change of heart. Wanting to help Oliver, she met Mr. Brownlow in secret upon London Bridge and told him about the plan. Fagin and Monks had hatched. Monks struck a bargain with Fagin, and Nancy said that Fagin was to have money for making Oliver a criminal. Monks wanted the boy hanged for capital felony, for he said that he was Oliver's brother and he wanted their father's inheritance for himself. "His brother?" exclaimed Mr. Brownlow, clasping his hands. "Those were his words," said Nancy, "but it's growing late and I must get back, because among all the desperate men I've told you of, there's one I can't leave, Bill Sykes." But Fagin found out that Nancy had blabbed and made Sykes so angry that he murdered poor Nancy. Oh dear. Of all the bad deeds that had ever been committed, this was the worst. Of all the horrors, this was the most cruel. Poor Nancy. No, can you imagine? Fortunately, however, Mr. Brownlow apprehended Monks and made him confess his plot against Oliver. "I swore," said Monks, "that I would hunt him down and bring him, if I could, to the very gallows foot. Oliver came in my way at last. I began well, but for a blabbing drab I would have finished as I began. I would. Fagin and Sykes were both hanged for their crimes. Guilty. What little remains can be told in a few and simple words. Oliver came into his rightful inheritance, and Mr. Brownlow adopted the young boy as his own son, watching with pride as Oliver showed the thriving seeds of all that he could wish him to become. Oliver's warm and earnest heart was perfectly happy at last. It's a happy ending. Yeah, Oliver's happy now. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back with another video for you tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe so that lands in your subscription feed. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to give Button some love, then give it a thumbs up. And yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.